While the X-Men universe is filled with mutants who desire to control the world, Sebastian Shaw is one of the most threatening supervillains who has ever fought against the X-Men. He was first introduced in the Uncanny X-Men comics in 1980 and soon emerged as one of the most important villains in the X-Men universe, with appearances in various crucial story arcs. He notably led the Hellfire Club and then went on to work alongside various other teams to create a lasting legacy. Today, we will explore his origins and story arcs and tell you everything about this badass X-Men villain. But before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a very small click for you, but for us, it means a whole lot. So thank you, and let's get into it.
You embrace it.
Exploring the origins of this iconic villain. Sebastian Shaw was born and raised into a poor family in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. After his father had fled from the UK and settled down in the United States, Sebastian had a challenging childhood. He was also forced to work in a steel mill to get some extra income for his family. In the meantime, Sebastian's father, Jacob Shaw, became obsessed with gaining a large fortune of money as he secretly started working under Mr. Sinister. As Sebastian grew up, he proved himself as a gifted young man and even got a scholarship to the Stevens Institute of Technology. His father soon passed away, and Sebastian was once bullied and attacked by a bunch of kids at a local club who could not stand to see someone from his background go to such an elite college. Sebastian's powers first manifested themselves during this fight, and he could absorb his opponent's kinetic energy and use it against them. After graduating from college, Sebastian became quite a notable name in the business and technology fields, and various organizations sought his help to make their company successful. Shaw eventually opened his own business, Shaw Companies, which soon became a multi-billion-dollar corporation focusing on technology. He became a millionaire by 30 and only became more and more successful as the years passed. By 40, Sebastian had become a billionaire and hoped to dominate the world through his money and power. He also had a lot of connections with the government and various corporations, which only made him all the more powerful. While Sebastian was at the top of his career, he came across a young lady who was also involved with another mutant named Harry Leland. After learning that this woman had given birth to a child named Shinobi, Sebastian readily took this child under his protection, even though he was not the child's father. After a few years, Sebastian met a woman mutant named Lourdes Chantel, and the two fell in love and soon started dating before he had to visit Afghanistan. After returning to America, Sebastian caught the attention of the exclusive Hellfire Club, which included various elites in society and played a role in multiple wars and assassinations. While Lourdes Chantel disapproved of this club, Sebastian learned that his father was once a part of it as well, and he agreed to join. Lourdes also tried to keep Sebastian away from the club's leader, Ned Buckman, but her attempts were futile. Over time, Sebastian became good friends with Harry Leland and Ned Buckman, who were both integral members of the club. Shaw soon became a part of the club's Council of the Chosen and was held in high regard among other club members. He also rose to the rank of Black Bishop in the club and even got engaged to Lourdes. Eventually, Lourdes decided that she wanted to back out of this commitment. When Buckman betrayed Sebastian by sending a bunch of sentinels to hunt him, a mutant telepath named Emma Frost helped Lourdes by making Sebastian believe she had died while saving him. Even though Lourdes was alive and well, Sebastian was convinced by Emma's stories, and he then went after Ned Buckman and killed him. Sebastian then replaced Ned as the new leader of the Hellfire Club and started calling himself the Black King of the club. Harry Leland then took over Sebastian's role as the Black Bishop, while Lourdes visited Kingpin and got a new identity to turn over a new leaf. Sebastian later wanted to recruit someone to act as the White King for his club, and he threw a party and invited various influential men to take his pick. While Tony Stark expressed his interest in this position, Sebastian chose Prince Namor of Atlantis and asked him to join the club. However, Prince Namor took offense even at this suggestion and threatened to kill Sebastian if he dared to waste his time over such trivial clubs. Sebastian refused to accept this rejection and sent Emma Frost to convince or even force Namor into joining the club. When he did not get any news from Emma for 2 weeks, Sebastian sent the Sentinels after her. These Sentinels ended up in Atlantis and caused massive damage to the place, eventually leading Namor to declare war against Sebastian. Emma helped Namor in his fight against Sebastian, but she was soon brainwashed by one of Sebastian's followers, Tessa. Tessa managed to get Emma to forget all her memories memories, and she once again started serving in the Hellfire Club. Namor eventually could not get close enough to Sebastian to kill him, and he retreated after promising to come back for revenge. Sebastian then asked Emma, Harry Leland, and the cyborg named Donald Pierce to join his inner circle within the club. While Tessa was also one of the club's core members, it was later revealed that she was working as a spy for Professor X and reporting the club's activities to him. After establishing his dominance over the Hellfire Club, Sebastian used his power as the CEO of Shaw Industries, leader of the club, and his government contacts to dominate the world. He also spent years building an army of Sentinels, hoping it would be advantageous for him to control them. While making the Sentinels, Sebastian often got into conflict with Senator Robert Kelly and Henry Gyrich, who were not big fans of his plan and viewed him as a threat to humanity. Sebastian also faced trouble in the form of his son, Shinobi Shaw, who wanted to displace him as the Black King. Shinobi even tried to assassinate Sebastian to gain his title, but he failed to do so, and Sebastian oversaw the Hellfire Club for a long time.
Me. The more you fight, the stronger I become.
Sebastian Shaw had an interesting presence in X-Men the Animated Series. Sebastian Shaw also had a widespread presence in the X-Men Animated Series, wherein he ruled over the Hellfire Club and often faced obstacles in the form of the X-Men and other enemies try to take over his position. He predominantly appeared in the show's third season in a series of episodes titled The Dark Phoenix Saga, a 4-part story arc focusing on the time when the Hellfire Club had captured the Phoenix. In the first part of the saga, titled Dazzled, 2 of the X-Men named Cyclops and Gambit visit a club in order to recruit Dazzler to join the X-Men. However, the 2 X-Men soon come face to face with one of Sebastian's men, Donald Pierce, who was attacking Dazzler outside the club. In the meantime, Jean Grey recovers from her previous missions while Professor Xavier states that the Phoenix Force still resides within her body. At the Hellfire Club, Sebastian's inner circle learns about Jean Grey's Phoenix Force through Emma Frost's psychic visions. They decide to take control over Jean Grey and send one of their mutants named Mastermind to control her mind. In the meantime, Jean Grey's condition worsens as the Phoenix Force controls her body and mind. Emma and Mastermind hatch a plan to manipulate Jean by placing her in a dream world where she is married to Mastermind. But Jean manages to break through this and teleport to a club to visit Cyclops. However, she is heartbroken to see Cyclops kiss Dazzler and becomes easily susceptible to falling for Mastermind's manipulations. She falls into their fantasy world and goes to the Inner Circle Club with them, where she marries Mastermind. However, the X-Men track Jean Grey and show up at the Inner Circle Club during the wedding, where they learn that the Phoenix has fully taken control over Jean Grey's mind and that she has turned against them. In the next part of this saga titled The Inner Circle, Professor Xavier uses his powers to see what is going on at the Inner Circle Club. However, he is unable to probe beyond a certain point since Emma Frost detects his presence and manages to block his powers. In the meantime, Sebastian and his Inner Circle Club capture the X-Men who had broken into the building and even chain them up in order to prevent them from escaping. They also crown Jean Grey as the Black Queen of the Hellfire Club, while Wolverine sneaks into the building unnoticed. Cyclops also uses his psychic connection to get to Jean, but Emma Frost notices this and then uses her psychic powers to distract him. Cyclops ends up hallucinating an empty fog, and he walks through it and comes across Mastermind. While the two start dueling, Jean Grey appears and teams up with Mastermind to hurt Cyclops. Wolverine also breaks into the Hellfire Club and gets attacked by Jean Grey, who eventually returns to her senses and breaks free from Mastermind's control. Sebastian orders the Inner Club Circle to fight with the X-Men, and the two teams end up in a battle. As this episode ends, Jean Grey goes after Mastermind for using her as a pawn in his game, and then she takes control of him and drives him into insanity. She then declares that the Phoenix has again taken over her body, and she even changes into her Dark Phoenix costume. In the next episode, titled The Dark Phoenix, Jean Grey attacks the X-Men on top of the roof of the Inner Circle's club and goes into a crazy frenzy. After defeating all her teammates, Dark Phoenix then flies into space and even flies into the sun before absorbing its energy and exploding it. While the Inner Circle Club does not play a big role in this episode, Sebastian Shaw and his club often stirred up trouble for the X-Men in this manner and occasionally kept appearing in the series. He was the main antagonist in X-Men First Class. Sebastian Shaw appeared as the main antagonist in the 2011 film X-Men First Class. The movie was a prequel to X-Men 2000, and it was set in 1962, wherein the newly formed X-Men and the Brotherhood of Mutants dealt with the threat of the Hellfire Club. Sebastian Shaw was portrayed as a mutant supremacist who wished for a nuclear war, and his character was played by Kevin Bacon. The movie's producer, Lauren Donner, stated that they casted Bacon since he came across as a villain with different shades, and he had the sort of bravado needed to play this role. Bacon also said that he accepted this role since he liked Sebastian Shaw's character in the comics, and that he believed that Shaw came across as a character who does not believe in following the general moral laws of the world. The movie began in 1944, wherein a Nazi officer named Klaus Schmidt watched a young man manifest his mutant powers at the Auschwitz concentration camp. Schmidt then ordered Eric to move a coin on his desk without touching it, and even killed Eric's mother when he failed to display his powers. Around 18 years later in 1962, Eric tracks Schmidt to avenge his mother's death. In the meantime, we learn that Schmidt is none other than Sebastian Shaw, and that he has established his leadership in the Hellfire Club. A CIA officer named Moria Magtaggart visits the Hellfire Club with the U.S. Army Colonel Hendry, and the two of them learn that Shaw has become an energy-absorbing mutant. When Shaw gets wind of Hendry's plans to deploy nuclear missiles in Turkey, he goes after him and even kills Hendry. In the meantime, Professor Charles Xavier visits the CIA along with two mutants named Raven and Moria, and tries to convince the officers that Shaw is a true threat. He also talks about the existence of mutants, while one of the officers agrees to sponsor the mutant cause and even invites them to their Division X facility. While Moira and Xavier visit the facility, Sebastian and Eric come face to face, and Sebastian attacks Eric and almost drowns him. While Professor Xavier saves Eric's life, Sebastian manages to escape and starts planning World War III. Xavier recruits other mutants, such as Angel Salvador, Armando Munez, and Alex Summers to fight against Shaw while he launches an attack on the Division X facility. Sebastian tries to convince Salvador and other recruits to join forces with him, and Salvador even agrees. However, Munez refuses his offers, and Sebastian soon kills him. Sebastian then travels to Moscow to install the missiles that would trigger the Cuban Missile Crisis, and then follows the Soviet Union's fleet in a submarine to ensure that his plans go as he had intended. However, Charles Xavier uses his telepathy to convince one of the Soviet sailors to destroy the fleets carrying the missiles. Meanwhile, Eric uses his mutant powers to bring Shaw's submarine to ground level. Eric then goes after Shaw and seizes his helmet, which gives Xavier a chance to use his telepathy to immobilize Shaw. In this helpless state, Eric finally reveals that Shaw had killed his mother many years ago, and then uses his powers to kill Shaw by slowly pushing a Nazi coin through his brain. While Shaw dies a painful death, Xavier asks Eric to stop his torture, but he ignores him and finally avenges his mother's death.
Truly am.
Sebastian Shaw in X-Men First Class was very different from the comic version. While Sebastian Shaw played a considerable role in X-Men First Class, his character was quite different from the comic version in many ways. Shaw's origins in the comics significantly differed from the origin story that was slated in the movie, wherein he works at a Nazi concentration camp. While Shaw does not seem incapable of doing such a thing, his comic version does not have any such background since he has only been associated with the Hellfire Club. Moreover, fans also pointed out that many of Sebastian's traits and character styling seem more suitable for Mr. Sinister than Shaw's comic version. Some comics have also mentioned that Mr. Sinister had even worked with Nazi scientists to experiment on young children, making it even more strange that Sebastian Shaw's character was given these storylines that better suited a different character. Sebastian's abilities were pretty much the same as his comic version, but there were some enhancements in terms of how he could create blasts and harm his opponents after absorbing kinetic energy. While Sebastian went through a secondary mutation later in the comics, this movie was released a few years before he gained these extraordinary abilities, which only confirms that the movies spruced up his powers to some extent. Shaw was also seen wearing Magneto's helmet to protect him from any psychic attacks in the movies, whereas there is no mention of Shaw getting his hands on this helmet in the comics. Some of his major comic book story arcs. Sebastian Shaw played a prominent role in the Dark Phoenix story arc, wherein Selene Gallio joined the Hellfire Club as the Black Queen. Since Selene is one of the most powerful mutants on Earth, Sebastian saw her as a threat to his throne and was skeptical about her involvement in the club. He once asked Selene to display her powers, and she used her abilities to cover Sebastian and his throne in solid concrete. Sebastian barely managed to escape this situation, while Selene walked up to the throne and restored it. She then declared that she would claim this throne for herself, while Sebastian started fearing his life and agreed to let her join the club for the time being. Selene did not miss any opportunity to make fun of Sebastian or mock his powers, and he eventually teamed up with Emma Frost to assassinate her. However, their plan failed in the end when Selene brought Rachel Summers, also known as the Phoenix, to the club. Selene had kidnapped Rachel and presented her as a gift to Sebastian, and this proved to be quite a troubling situation for Sebastian since Rachel was trying to murder the members of the Inner Circle. Rachel even tried to assassinate Selene, but she was eventually stopped by Wolverine, while Sebastian secretly hoped that Selene would die. After surviving this incident, Selene shamed Sebastian for taking no action to prevent her death, and he finally agreed to take some action against Rachel Summers. This resulted in a tense situation between the X-Men and the Hellfire Club, but things soon returned to normal when Sebastian invited Magneto to join the club as the White King. While Magneto was holding the position of the headmaster at the Xavier Institute, he accepted Sebastian's offer and soon challenged him for the leadership of the Hellfire Club. Sebastian ended up losing this battle, and Magneto assumed the leadership of this club. However, the new Inner Circle formed under Magneto lasted for a very short time, and it soon fell apart when Selene gained most of the powers and resources of the club. Sebastian briefly served in Selene's Inner Circle, but it didn't last that long because Selene had her own plans for the Inner Circle's future. In a later story arc titled Dark Reign, Emma Frost tries to convince Namor to join the mutant cause and even offers to kill Sebastian Shaw in return. Namor agrees to this condition, and Emma stages a whole incident wherein she cuts off Sebastian's head right in front of him. After Namor agrees with Emma's demands, it is revealed that Sebastian is alive and that Emma has imprisoned him in Utopia. She later freed him from prison with the help of Kitty Pryde and Phantom X and took him to China. After having a long talk with him, Phantom X eventually got bored of him and dumped him through a hole inside the EVA. The EVA was the physical manifestation of Phantom X's nervous system, and he used it to throw Sebastian on the ground from a great height. While Phantom X assumed this would kill Sebastian, the process resulted in Sebastian's return to full power. He emerged from a small crater in the ground after channeling the kinetic energy from the fall, while Emma Frost scolded Phantom X for his carelessness. Sebastian then went after Emma and proved to be quite a formidable contender, but Emma used her powers to control his mind and confuse him. Sebastian started believing that he had already killed Emma under these illusions, and Emma finally froze his body and erased all of his memories. She later sent him back to the prisons in Utopia, and Sebastian eventually ended up serving under Emma. While serving under Emma, Sebastian gradually rose to power once more, and Emma decided that she needed to get rid of him once and for all. She devised a concrete plan to kill him and then visited him at his mansion to end their fights forever. As the two engaged in battle, Emma initially struggled to overpower him, but Sebastian soon froze mid-fight and collapsed to the ground. Emma then revealed that she had learned everything from him after all, since he had recruited her while she worked as a stripper to make her join his club. She further stated that she had poisoned him in advance and that he had become a weak person who no longer had it in him to rule over anyone. While Sebastian died before her eyes, Emma changed her outfit and declared herself the new Black King.
For the recharge, Cyclops.
He is all set to be a part of the upcoming series X-Men 97. The first look at the X-Men 97 series was revealed at Comic-Con, and this show is set to release soon in 2023. Nearly 3 decades after the release of the animated X-Men series, the X-Men 97 continues with the original show's storyline and includes various popular X-Men such as Rogue, Jean Grey, Cyclops, Magneto, and even Wolverine. The show's animation was first revealed at Comic-Con in June 2022, and it has been stated stated that X-Men 97 stays true to the X-Men comic storylines while adding a modern twist to them. It has been declared that the Hellfire Club will be written into the plot of the series, and we can expect various battles between the X-Men and Sebastian Shaw and his army of Sentinels. While not much information is available regarding Sebastian Shaw's character in the show, we can expect some storylines that show him leading the Hellfire Club, having face-offs with the X-Men, and even fighting against Emma Frost.
Adapt to this.
What makes him so powerful and unique? Sebastian Shaw was an alpha-level mutant whose main powers lay in his ability to absorb kinetic energy and then use it to enhance his own strength and speed. This essentially meant that any attack against him could make him even stronger, which is what makes his powers so unique. It was impossible to defeat him by sheer force, and most of his opponents had to resort to using some mind tricks against him. Sebastian could absorb physical as well as electrical energy, and he also possessed superhuman strength. According to some sources, he even spent his mornings hitting a wall in order to increase his endurance and strength, and he also had enhanced durability. He also had enhanced metabolism due to his energy-absorbing abilities and could even go without sleep for long hours by absorbing huge amounts of kinetic energy. Sebastian's ability to absorb kinetic energy also helped him increase his speed and stamina beyond normal levels, and he even gained the strength to hold up to 100 times his weight. Sebastian often enjoyed teasing his opponents into fighting against him, which helped him absorb more energy and become more powerful. He also had a regenerative healing factor that helped him heal minor injuries and wounds. Over time, Sebastian underwent a mother vine enhancement process that would trigger a secondary mutation to gain more abilities. He could then absorb and convert the kinetic energy in his surroundings without actively working to create energy by exerting his own body. He could then release this absorbed energy in the form of waves or blasts that caused large-scale damage to his surroundings. He could also coat his fists with an unusual amount of energy and easily defeat any opponent. His powers combined to make him a formidable opponent, and he was exceptionally skilled at hand-to-hand combat. He also had excellent leadership skills and led the Hellfire Club for quite an extended period. However, Sebastian's powers also became his weakness at times when he was unable to regulate his energy forces after being overwhelmed by a massive influx of power. If he failed to absorb the kinetic energy directed at him, Sebastian could be crushed by its weight and potentially suffer from fatal injuries. He has also been part of some popular X-Men games. Sebastian Shaw appeared in the X-Men video game as the final boss in a level titled The Hellfire Mansion. He also appeared in X-Men Legends 2: Rise of Apocalypse, wherein his character was voiced by Alan Shearman. In this video game, Sebastian is an independent character who appears in order to hand a key to Apocalypse's tower to the X-Men. He also appeared in the X-Men Origins Wolverine video game, wherein he owned the systemized cybernetic labs. These labs were responsible for coming up with the Project Wide Awake, and Shaw later even appeared in a Facebook game titled Marvel Avengers Alliance. Conclusion. To sum it up, Sebastian Shaw is quite a fierce adversary in the X-Men universe, and he has certainly created quite a legacy for himself in this franchise. He has been a part of various comic book arcs and popular X-Men movies, and is undoubtedly one of the most loved X-Men villains of all time. Hey, if you liked our content today, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. And in the meantime, have a good one and be safe, and we will see you for the next episode. Thank you, everyone.